542 confirmed kills. 100 days of winter. 0 telescopic scope used. A record that remains unbeaten. They said a mail-order rifle and a simple farmer's aim could never stop an empire. The odds were truly impossible. On the front lines of World War II, analysts made a grim prediction. This soldier wouldn't last 24 hours. They were dead wrong. What happened in the next 100 days would rewrite the history of sniping. The method he used is a legend. It is still whispered in training today. Our story begins in the frost, during the bitter winter of 1939. The Soviet Red Army is rolling in. 1.5 million men cross the border. Facing them is a quiet man. The world completely underestimated him. His name was Simo Häyhä. He was a hunter, not an officer. The Soviets brought heavy artillery. They brought tanks and air power. Simo brought a bolt-action rifle. The M2830 was his only tool. The strategic situation was dire. Temperatures dropped to -40 degrees. The land was frozen and unforgiving. Finnish defense was expected to crumble, but Simo had a tactical advantage. No one saw this advantage coming. He knew the terrain like his pulse. He was a ghost in the white snow. The Soviets realized the truth. They weren't fighting an army. They were fighting a phantom, a shadow that moved in the cold. The action begins with a single shot. Simo refuses to use a scope. A telescopic sight is a liability. He keeps his profile low to the earth. The sun's reflection on a lens would give his position away. He uses iron sights to hunt, lower than any trained sniper in history. By day 10, the count reaches 50. The Red Army is paralyzed with fear. They begin calling him a new name. He becomes known as the White Death. But here's what nobody knew. The Soviets were planning a trap. An entire battalion was deployed. They were sent specifically to hunt him. Simo was now the hunted man. The Soviets leveled the entire forest. Scorched earth artillery rained down. They tried to catch him in the blast. He's alone and heavily outgunned. A specialized counter-sniper team has just locked onto his position. The next 60 seconds change everything. The counter-snipers move in silence. They check every tree and drift. Simo lies perfectly still in the ice. He holds snow in his mouth to hide his breath. Steam from a breath is a death sentence. He remains a part of the landscape. The Soviet-led sniper scans the ridge. He is looking for a glass reflection, but there is no glass to find. Simo waits for the perfect heartbeat. He adjusts for the freezing wind. The trigger pull is a soft click. The Soviet lead sniper falls. The battalion panics in the clearing. They fire blindly into the white trees. Simo has already moved his position. This was his secret survival dance. Fire a shot, then disappear. The snow fills his tracks instantly. He is a memory before they can aim. By day 30, the tally is 200. The Soviet commanders are furious. They send in more specialized hunters. They offer rewards for his head. Fear spreads through the Soviet ranks. Soldiers refuse to leave their dugouts. Every shadow looks like a rifle. Every sound is a Finnish ghost. Simo lived on sugar and bread. He spent all day in the freezing pits. His endurance was beyond human. His focus was sharp as a blade. He packed the snow in front of him. This prevented the muzzle blasts from kicking up a cloud of powder. Small details kept him alive. The Soviets try a new tactic. They use indirect carpet bombing. They want to kill the forest itself. The ground shakes under the fire. Trees splinter like toothpicks. The air is thick with black smoke. Simo crawls through the burning debris. He finds a new ridge to defend. Day 50 marks a grim milestone. The body count is now over 300. The White Death is a myth. The Soviets think he's immortal. A Soviet officer takes the lead. He is an expert from the East. He promises to bring Simo back. The duel begins at dawn. The two snipers watch the valley. It is a game of extreme patience. Who will blink in the cold first? Who will make the first mistake? The officer sees a slight movement. He fires into a clump of brush. It was a decoy hat on a stick. Simo now knows exactly where he is. One shot rings out across the ice. The Soviet expert is gone. Simo doesn't celebrate the win. He simply reloads his bolt. The Finnish army gains hope. They see one man holding the line. Sisu is the word they use. It means stoic, grit, and bravery. By day 70, the numbers are staggering. Simo has used his submachine gun too. His total impact is in the hundreds. The Red Army is losing its morale. The weather turns even more brutal. Storms mask his silent approach. He enters the enemy camp at night. He leaves before the sun rises. The Soviet generals are desperate. They order a massive frontal assault. They hope to overwhelm him by force. Tanks roar over the frozen lakes. Simo targets the tank commanders. When they peek out, he fires. The machines become blind and lost. They collide in the narrow passes. The forest becomes a graveyard. The white snow is stained red. Simo remains the silent watcher. He's the guardian of the border. People ask how he stayed calm. He said he just did his job. Practice is the only secret. The hunter never forgets the prey. But even legends have a limit. March 6th, 1940 arrives. The Soviets launch a final push. An explosive bullet finds its mark. The bullet hits Simo in the jaw. Half of his face is shattered. He falls into the deep snow. His comrades think he is dead. They carry him back to the camp. The news reaches the front lines. The White Death has finally fallen. The Soviets celebrate the news. But Simo was still breathing. He slipped into a deep coma. The doctors worked through the night. His will to live was legendary. 1 week later, something happened. The peace treaty was finally signed. Simo regained consciousness that day. He woke up as the war ended. He saw the headlines in the news. The farmer had survived the empire. He had served his 100 days. The mission was finally complete. His face was forever changed. The scars were a map of the war, but his spirit remained unbroken. He returned to his quiet life. He went back to the forest. He went back to hunting deer. He never boasted of his kills. He never asked for the fame. When asked about his incredible aim, he gave a very simple answer. Practice was all he said. Consistency is the greatest weapon. Modern snipers study his path. They look at his iron sights. They study his mouth snow trick. He is the gold standard of stealth. A sniper is not just a shooter. A sniper is a master of patience. Simo proved that mind beats iron. Discipline beats the heavy machine. Let's look closer at the rifle. The M2830 was a Finnish variant. It was shorter and more reliable. Perfect for the thick Arctic brush. He didn't use camouflage suits. He used heavy white blankets. He looked like a mound of snow. Even the birds landed near him. He would pour water on the snow. This turned the ground into ice. The ice prevented the muzzle flash. It also stopped the snow from flying. He knew the distance by eye. No laser rangefinders existed then. He calculated the drop in wind. Everything was done in his head. The Soviet snipers had scopes. The scopes forced them to rise up. They had to expose their heads. Simo stayed flat on the ground. This is the lesson of the hunter. Use what you have to the max. Don't rely on complex technology. Master the basics of the craft. The Winter War was short, but its impact was massive. It showed the world a truth. A small nation can stand tall. Simo lived to be 96 years old. He outlived almost all his enemies. He passed away in a quiet home. A peaceful end for a warrior. The forest of Kala still stands. The trees still whisper his name. The White Death is a ghost, no, a legend of the Northern Lights. History is made by individuals, men who refuse to back down. Simo Häyhä was one of those men, the greatest sniper to ever live. Think about the pressure he felt. Thousands of men searching for him. Planes flying overhead in circles, yet he never missed a shot. He was a man of few words. He didn't care for the medals. He cared for his home and soil. That was the source of his power. What can we learn from Simo? Preparation is the key to success. Know your environment better than anyone. Stay humble even when you win. He remains a national hero, a symbol of Finnish resilience. His story is taught in schools. His rifle is kept in a museum. Imagine the silence of the woods, the crunch of boots on the ice. The sudden crack of a rifle, then nothing but the cold wind. That was the reality of 1939. A war fought in the shadows, a war won by the invisible. The White Death reigned supreme. We honor the history today. We remember the 542 lives taken. We remember the cost of freedom. And the man who held the line. If you ever find yourself alone, facing odds that seem too high, remember the farmer from Finland. Remember the man with the iron sight. The legend of Simo. He lives. It echoes through the halls of time. A masterclass in skill and grit. The ghost of the Winter War. This was the story of Simo. The man they could not kill. The hunter who became a legend. The White Death will never die. Here is part 2, formatted into 70 segments of 3 to 4 lines each, maintaining the same structure and pacing as part 1. We left off in the frost. The White Death was surrounded. Elite Soviet teams were closing in. They thought they had him pinned, but Simo Häyhä was waiting. He was about to prove a point. He is the most successful sniper in the history of human warfare. Wait until you see what happens. Simo does not choose to retreat. He uses the snow to his advantage. He becomes a part of the drift. The cold is a dangerous enemy. He packs snow into his mouth. This stops his breath from fogging, a secret to staying invisible. That is 5 targets down. 6 more are still in the woods. One by one, the snipers fall. They cannot see where he hides. He sees every slight movement. He tracks the shimmer of glass. The running count hits 200. The legend begins to grow. Then the count reaches 300. Soon it surpasses the 500 mark. The physical toll is immense. His body is pushed to the limit. But the psychological toll is worse. It haunts the Soviet command. Entire units refuse to move. They fear the haunted forest. They know he is active nearby. They know he is watching them. The woods belong to the ghost. The White Death is everywhere. The luck finally begins to fade. It is the 6th of March, a day that changed everything. An explosive bullet finds him. The metal strikes his jaw. It should have been the end. Half of his face was gone. He fell into the deep white. But legends are hard to kill. The report remains legendary today. He regained consciousness slowly. The date was March 13th. That was the day of peace. The very day the war ended. He did not just survive the shot. He became a symbol of defiance. He was the face of the nation. His tactics are still studied. The iron sights and the profile. The snowpacking and the grit. Sniper schools teach him globally. They studied the way he hunted. Success wasn't about the gear. It wasn't about the new West tech. It was about tactical innovation. It was about nerves of steel. He proved a powerful lesson. Even when the odds are millions, the right person can win. The right plan is unstoppable. This matters even more today. In our age of high-tech war, the fundamentals remain the same. The underestimated soldier is key. They are the ultimate wild card. They change the course of history. Think of the silence he kept. The discipline of a true hunter. He didn't need a fancy scope. He only needed his own eyes. The Soviets tried everything. They used fire and lead, but they couldn't hit a ghost. They couldn't catch the wind. His survival was a miracle. The doctors were in shock. The bullet was meant to kill. But Simo had more to do. He lived through the trauma. He carried the scars with pride. A farmer who saved a country. A man who became a wall. Let's look at the strategy. Why did the iron sights work? No reflection to give him away. He could keep his head down. He dug into the frozen crust. He made a home in the ice. The enemy walked right past. They never knew he was there. Imagine the patience required. Hours of waiting in the dark, waiting for the perfect moment to take the shot that matters. He was not seeking the glory. He was protecting his home. That is the strongest motivation. That is why he could not fail. The Red Army learned a lesson. Numbers do not always mean victory. One man can hold an army back if that man has the right spirit. The world watched in disbelief. A tiny nation held its ground against the massive Soviet machine led by the shadow in the trees. Simo's rifle is a relic now. It represents a lost era when the man made the weapon, not the weapon making the man. He returned to his farm life. He raised dogs and hunted game. He lived a long, quiet life. The war was a distant memory, but the story never faded. It grew with every passing year, from the snowy hills of Finland to the military bases of the world. He was a master of the basics: camouflage and scent control, positioning and steady breathing, the art of the invisible warrior. He didn't use a spotter. He worked alone in the cold. Total self-reliance in the field. Total confidence in his aim. The explosive bullet was heavy. It tore through his left cheek, but it didn't take his life. It only added to the myth. He woke up to a new world. A world where Finland was free. His sacrifice was worth the cost. His struggle had bought them time. People asked if he felt regret. He said he did what was told, as well as he possibly could. A true soldier's simple answer. He lived without any bitterness. He was kind to his neighbors. The White Death was a title. But Simo was just a man who loved his land, a man who knew the woods, the greatest sniper to ever live, yet the most humble of them all. We look back at his journey, from the farm to the front, from the frost to the hospital, to the pages of every history. He defined the term sisu, that special Finnish bravery, the grit that knows no end, the fire that burns in the ice. Every shot had a purpose. Every move was calculated. He didn't waste a single bullet. He didn't waste a single breath. The Soviet snipers were good, but they were outmatched here. They were playing his game. In his backyard of frozen pine, they were looking for a soldier. They should have looked for a fox. They should have looked for the snow, because that is where he stayed. The forest of Kala is quiet, but the air still feels heavy, with the weight of the history, with the ghost of the 542. His record will likely stand. No one fights like that anymore. The world has moved to drones. The world has moved to screens, but the human element remains. The heart of the warrior matters, the ability to endure the pain, the will to stay in the fight. Simo Häyhä is the reminder that tools are just tools. It is the hand that holds them that determines the final outcome. The Empire could not break him. The winter could not freeze him. The bullet could not stop him. He was the ultimate survivor. If you enjoyed this deep dive, if you value these forgotten tales, there is much more to share. History is full of these ghosts. We tell their stories to learn, to understand the human spirit, to see what is truly possible. When a person refuses to quit, tactical innovation is the key. Nerves of steel are the lock. Simo had both in abundance. He was the master of the North. The next time you see the snow, think of the man in the trees. Think of the iron sight aiming. Think of the White Death's legacy. We are closing this chapter now, but the legend stays with us. A farmer, a hunter, a hero, the greatest to ever pull the trigger. Thank you for watching this, for honoring the history with us. There are more stories to tell, more heroes to bring to light. Hit the subscribe button now. Stay tuned for the next journey. We go from the snow to the sky, to a story you won't believe. Next week, we meet the pilot, the ghost who took on a squadron. Another impossible set of odds, another legend born the fire. Don't miss the next episode. The world of history is vast, and the best stories are true. See you in the next one. Simo Häyhä, the White Death, a name that will never fade. Rest in peace, old hunter. Your watch is finally over. The snow covers the tracks. The wind blows through the pines. The border is safe and sound because of the man in the white. Final scene, final thought. True strength is often silent. True power is often hidden. Just like the sniper in the ice, this was the White Death. The legend of Simo Häyhä. 100 days of winter. An eternity of respect. Goodbye for now, viewers.